Everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer, Tucker Sennett, joining you here today to run through my final takeaways from ACC Tipoff. A lot of written content coming from ACC Tipoff coming in the next few days and week, as NC State football will have a bye week after this upcoming trip to Notre Dame. But just wanted to give you the boots on the ground intel, what you might have missed from that event. Obviously, NC State men's basketball came in for the event in Charlotte yesterday, did their ACC network appearance, did their big press conference, did their Field of 68 podcast appearance with Jeff Goodman and his crew. So they are now off to the races. The season is basically here. We got a couple weeks, a little under a month until they get things going officially, but we got some exhibition matchups coming in the next few weeks. So we'll get a look at the Wolfpack men's basketball program there. But kind of the main topics I want to hit on in this pretty short episode. Will Wade coming with the heat as he's done throughout this offseason, putting the nation on notice that this NC State team is will be no pushover. There will be no rebuild. They want to compete this year as soon as possible, and they seem to have the roster to do so. We got to see them play games before we can confidently say that that's true, but most of the analysts and the pundits and the prognosticators all seem to be in lockstep on the fact that Will Wade has turned this program around in a big way. And at the very least, this will be a team that pushes for that top four in the ACC this year. There's a lot of sentiment around ACC tip-off about improving the brand of the conference. I talked about this a little bit with Commissioner Jim Phillips's forum in the previous episode of the podcast, and I think NC State wants to be that disruptor and that new sort of exciting face of ACC basketball. And I think Will Wade's been very calculated about how he's gone about that. He's a very intellectual guy, and he does a fantastic job of, making the right statements at the right times. And he continued to do that. And the ACC completely unintentionally added fuel to Wade's fire when Wade, Darian Williams, and Van Allen Lubin took the stage. Along the sides, you got photos of Wade and all throughout the days. You had the head coach and the players, photos and names. And Darian Williams's photo was actually a photo of the previous team's player, Malik Thomas of Virginia, who transferred in from San Francisco. So it was the wrong photo for Darian Williams, and Will Wade had some fun with that. I think he mentioned it like three or four times over the course of the main press conference and the breakout room session. So clearly that irked him a little bit. He said, maybe by the time next year when NC State has proven that they're a strong ACC contender, they won't get the best player's photo wrong. So certainly some animosity there, and definitely, not a guy who needs any additional bulletin board material, but you just gave him some, and that'll be something to observe and watch throughout the season is how he's able to sort of create these motivators for hit both himself and his team, and he's clearly very good at that. And we'll see how they handle the actual season, but it'll definitely be something I will watch closely for you all. Another thing I noticed was he's a very similar. They're different in a lot of ways, but in terms of what the two programs mean for the ACC, Pat Kelsey in Louisville and Will Wade in NC State, those are both like historical programs in terms of success. Um, and they both experienced downturns. Obviously, NC State had the Final Four run. Louisville was kind of in a rut after the Rick Pitino debacle many years ago, and then the Chris Mack debacle, and then everything that happened after that with Coach Payne, and it seems like they've landed on their feet with Pat Kelsey, and his marketing theme for last year was the revival of Louisville basketball, and he did a fantastic job getting them back to the tournament, and now they're expected to be a contender for the ACC, and I think there's a lot of parallels between that Louisville team last year and this NC State team. I don't think there's as much talent on that Louisville team as there is this Wolfpack squad. They didn't have that Darian Williams type. They didn't have sort of the high level recruit like Matt Abel, and it was kind of a rebuild from scratch. But Kelsey had that team really competitive by the end of the season. They were in the ACC championship game, and I think those two schools are such a major piece in repairing that brand for the ACC. So it was interesting to see those two guys discuss things. Um, Not super similarly in their like coaching style and outlook, but in terms of firing up and galvanizing the school around the program, kind of a similar mindset. So a lot of parallels there. My final takeaway was talking to Virginia coach Ryan Odom. He and Will Wade both coached at VCU as well as Jeff Capel, and I'm going to write about this later, but I asked him just, is there something about that school? There's now several coaches who have either assisted at VCU or were head coaches there who have gone on to become head coaches at Power Four conferences. There's three in the ACC. You got Will Wade, you got Ryan Odom, you got Jeff Capel, and then Shaka Smart over at Marquette is sort of the headliner of that group because he started this trend when he took that VCU team to the Final Four. Obviously not in the ACC, but a power conference coach in the Big East there at Marquette. And he said, they've all kind of taken different approaches. They're all different coaches, but there's definitely some secret sauce in the water over there at VCU, and I just appreciated his honesty about that. He's a confident guy, and Virginia is definitely a rival to watch out for. I'll have some scoop on them as I've been doing the rival reports from ACC Tipoff. It's nice to actually talk to those teams and hear what they have to say about themselves because it helps kind of paint the picture of where they are compared to NC State. It's easier to compare. So look out for some more content like that. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry this was a shorter episode today, but got a lot of writing to do here and the big football game this weekend, so we'll have coverage of that. You know the usual social media drill. You can follow my Twitter account at Senate Tucker for more content. You can follow the website's Twitter account at Wolfpack on SI. You can find daily episodes of the sports videos on SI or on the sports videos on SI YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.